Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect 2. My name is Pete and today we complete the loyalty mission wrap-up for Jack, whose loyalty mission we completed in the last episode, as well as another short, albeit slightly more difficult assignment. Before we get to all of that, however, we will have ourselves a quick chat with Miranda. A short while ago I asked you guys for your opinion on a potential romance candidate for the series, and even though we did already have some flirtatious conversation with her, the choice was very much not in favor of Miranda. Now, I will not reveal who we're actually going with, as a matter of fact I'm still debating that myself, but I can say this much, it's not going to be Miranda, so we might as well let her know.
Commander, what can I do for you?
You have a minute, Miranda?
I do. I suppose we should talk. I don't know what this is. If this is stress, or just blowing off steam, or...
And here we are. Unless we make a choice here, we have pretty much reached a standstill with her conversation-wise. And again, since we do not want to lock her in as our romance option for this playthrough, we will have to politely decline.
Look, Miranda, I just wanted to apologize for what happened before. I think we should keep things professional.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. The mission comes first. Thanks for coming by, Shepard. I've got some work to do.
Well, at least she sees things the same way. At least that is what she makes it seem like.
Weren't you originally stationed on Horizon?
Yes. If I hadn't joined Cerberus, I'd be abducted by the Collectors right now.
Wow, you really dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I couldn't take that. They creep the hell out of me.
And after learning a bit more about our crew, it is now time to also check in with Kasumi, who has a few more lines of dialogue for us as well.
People are talking out there, and I hear it all. So, you and Kelly, huh? Sounds like you two had a nice date. I thought she was coming on to me at first, but maybe she was just being friendly to the new girl. Jacob deserves better than a father like that. I probably would have wanted to shoot him too. I can see why Jack is the way she is. I don't like it, but I get it. Come back later. I'm sure I'll have more to talk about.
Alright, and with that it is time to head down to engineering for another short conversation with Jack. In the last episode we visited and ultimately destroyed the facility where she was raised, for lack of a better term, and with that horrible piece of her past hopefully buried, let's see how she's doing.
I needed to wipe that place off the map. You took me there to do it, and I owe you. You don't know what it's like, Shepard, to have garbage like that following you. It marks you in ways you don't expect.
Alright, unusual start to the conversation here, as we will go with the Renegade choice. However, we're only doing that because there is no Paragon option available, and in my completionist mind, 2 Renegade points are better than no morality points at all.
You're not the only one with a past, Jack. Everyone has to deal.
Know what? I like that. I piss and moan, and you say, grow the fuck up. That victim garbage, it's half me. I think I get that.
At this point, we can also ask her about the consequences of her more or less voluntary decision to spare Arash, which was, admittedly, a bit of an unusual character display for Jack.
I never thought I'd see you show mercy, but you let Arash live.
He was trapped in the past, reliving it every day. You showed how that could be me. I'm not getting stuck like that. I'm better than him, and I'm sure as hell not carrying that crater around with me.
Now, at this point, we finally have a Paragon option available and will also go with it, as we can now ask her if she feels like the events on Pragia have indeed changed her.
Do you think you're different now?
I know that place is gone, but I still kind of want to kill every person I see. No offense.
Well, looks like if Jack has changed, it's not too much, so we won't be too comforting towards her either, so we can go with the middle option here, which conveniently enough also gives 2 Paragon points.
I'll take what I can get with you, Jack.
You did a lot, Shepard. Shit. I'm not good at this soft stuff. Just... thanks, okay? Let's get back to work.
Alright, and there we are. That's Jack's loyalty mission properly completed now. So at this point we can now slowly start preparing for the next mission. And speaking of preparations, in between episodes I have actually installed another very small DLC for the game, namely the Cerberus Weapon and Armor DLC, for which we will in just a second receive a short message.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
And there we are, we now have a message from the Elusive Man, who informs us that Cerberus's armor technicians have put together a package for us. One of the items in there is very obviously the Cerberus assault armor, and let's head up to the captain's cabin right away to equip that now. Now at the moment we have the regular N7 armor with the recon hood, capacitor chest plate, shoulder guards, offhand ammo pack and life support webbing. This setup gives us an 8% bonus to weapon damage as well as a 10% bonus to shield recovery, ammo capacity and health, and that is arguably a little better than what the Cerberus assault armor offers. Additionally, I also think the assault armor looks a little clunky, but in the spirit of true completion I want to use it at least once. Statistics-wise, we receive a bonus to heavy weapon ammo capacity as well as shields and health, which also means that compared to our previous setup we will now do slightly reduced damage. All in all, the differences will probably not be too noticeable, and I think at least for this next mission we can afford to experiment a bit.
Thane would like to speak with you, Commander.
Speaking of which, it is now finally time to hop back into the galaxy map and plot our course. However, at least for the time being, we will actually stay in the Nubian Expanse because we still have 2 unsurveyed systems here. As you can see though, even with only one system explored, we already have roughly 2/3 of the cluster surveyed, so it does not surprise that the Aequitas system here only holds one single planet. And the description here already reveals it. Norisa here is fairly unremarkable. This ice giant does not really have an interesting backstory or large mineral deposits, so we're only stopping by for the sake of completion and then quickly move on. In the third and final Collapsia system, the situation is then not much different. As we enter, we can see there are only 2 planets in here. The first one is the ocean planet Yam, which is not only home to some forms of animal and plant life, but also harbors roughly 4,000 units of Element 0. Yes, that is not too much, but then again it's a rare commodity, so a quick mining stop might be worth it. The gas giant Tefnut, on the other hand, is then once again fairly boring. Yes, it has a population number listed here due to several space stations in its orbit, but mineral-wise it doesn't really have much to offer. And with that, our tour through the Nubian Expanse is complete. We can mark another cluster off of our completionist checklist, and after refueling in the Dakar system we can use the mass relay now, which we will use to travel all the way across the galaxy to the Minos Wasteland. We arrive in the Fortis system, but we'll also leave that one immediately. Once again, we have a quick tour to complete, and for that we'll start in the Caestus system. As you can see though, this is once again not the most populated system, so the first of only 2 stars, that is Temeraris. This red-hot rock planet will be marked as rich in minerals, however you will only be able to find roughly 6,000 units each of palladium, platinum and iridium, and all in all that is not really a great haul. Especially not in light of the neighboring planet Invictus, a Turian colony that is indeed very much worth checking out, if not for its interesting backstory, then at least for its 12,000 units of platinum or its 5,000 units of Element 0. And with that, we have now already surveyed 40% of the Minos Wasteland, so back over here in the Fortis system only 3 planets remain. Planet number 1 is Vir, a pressure cooker planet, but one that will supply you with over 13,000 units of palladium should you be interested. Planet number 2 is Pietas, a planet that could in theory be habitable. However, due to bureaucracy issues, it currently only sees occasional visits from pirates and smugglers. Still, that should not deter you, because once again it holds a very high amount of palladium, with over 14,000 units, even higher than that of its neighbor.
Anomaly detected. Universal distress protocol. Unregistered user or record damaged. Status. Scans have found something.
Now on Aequitas here, we not only detect a potential alien signature from within a mining facility, the planet is also another palladium hotspot with over 15,000 units of the stuff available here, so if you have a desperate need for 40 to 45,000 units of palladium, this system should not be missed. Our reserves, however, are fully stocked, so let's touch down and see what this mining business is all about. Now, for this mission, we want to bring health and firepower and ideally as many concussive shots as possible. And for those reasons, our squad will consist of Zaeed and Grunt, with the latter one being, at least in my opinion, the absolute best choice for this mission. In our shiny new Cerberus assault armor, we will not spend any squad points on Shepard. The next upgrade will be for 4 points, the maxing out of disruptor ammo. Grunt, meanwhile, has enough squad points to max out and evolve incendiary ammo, and we could now use him to make that ability available to everyone in the squad with squad incendiary ammo. However, Shepard already has it, so I think going Inferno with Grunt is the right choice. This will give Grunt a nice damage bonus which will come in handy in this mission, as we will be fighting a lot of armored enemies. With Zaeed, meanwhile, we will spend 2 more points in concussive shot. This is, after all, the only choice we have at the moment. This does unlock disruptor ammo as well, but we do not desperately need that at the moment. Now let's talk weapons, and first of all we will finally get rid of the Geth pulse rifle and go back to the good old Vindicator. Much more importantly, however, we will also make a shotgun change, because the DLC we installed is called Cerberus Weapon and Armor, and this right here is the weapon that comes with it, the S22 Eviscerator. Whether or not this weapon is actually better than the scimitar is up for debate. It doesn't fire quite as fast as the scimitar, but it has a bit more accuracy. The rest of Shepard's weapon loadout will stay as it is, but both Grunt and Zaeed will also see some changes. Not only will both of them also switch back to the Vindicator, but Grunt can also switch back to his very own version of the Claymore heavy shotgun. Once again, it is debatable whether the Claymore or the Eviscerator is the better choice for him, but since the Claymore is exclusive to him, I think it kind of makes sense to give him that one. Alright, here we are outside of the abandoned mine, and we already got a brief taste of what's to come. Before we head inside, we want to make sure to activate Inferno ammo on our assault rifle as well as on our shotgun, because both of those weapons will play a prominent role in this mission. We also want to grab the container here worth slightly over 2,000 credits, because that is already a big pile of the cash that can be found in this mission.
We've been spotted.
As we then make our way into the mine, we also soon encounter our first enemy. A lone Husk is running across the path, but once its armor is stripped, we can instantly kill it with a concussive shot. Around the corner then we do have another small group of 3, and this is only a small taste of what's to come. However, it doesn't take long for them all to fall, and so we can now grab our first of 4 iridium crates in this mission, and then take a look at the datapad over here. The message inside is short and to the point though, and unsurprisingly we will not follow the advice. Instead, we can make our way deeper into the mines, which at least in the early parts of this mission is still relatively easy. Around the corner here we once again run into another Husk, but this one is quickly defeated, and the next group here is a bit slow to get up and also has an abomination in its middle, and killing that and throwing one of Zaeed's inferno grenades provides us with a nice explosion. The 2 explosive canisters on the left and right also do additional damage, and so it doesn't take long until we can clean up the remains. On the left we have another iridium container that we don't want to miss, and then we can venture onwards. As we enter the next room here, another group of Husks activates, but again we can take out a few of them before they're even on their feet. However, I think this fight is the first one that kind of sets the theme for this mission, because for the next few minutes we will have plenty of these situations where we will be swamped by Husks and where we will occasionally have to backtrack in order to not get destroyed in melee combat. This here, by the way, an excellent example why Grunt is so useful in this mission. Just like the concussive shot, his Krogan charge can instantly kill a Husk that has lost its armor, and not only that, it can even kill multiple enemies at once if they're all in the same spot. After grabbing iridium crate number 3 here, we can then restock our somewhat dwindling ammo supply, and ammunition management can become an issue in this mission. For now though, let's worry about that locker ahead of us, which we can bypass for 1,000 additional credits. And now we slowly but steadily get to the interesting part of this mission. Around the corner here we have iridium crate number 4, and with that the collection is completed. The mission, however, has only just begun. The next group of Husks is dropping in ahead of us here. For now it's only 2 of them, but more of them will join the fight in just a few seconds, so it's very important to get rid of these 2 quickly. The next group of 2 is then split up into 2 smaller pairs, one coming from the right and the other one from straight ahead, and that last one also has an abomination. All in all though, this is once again not the most challenging fight, however it also very much fits the description of the calm before the storm. Once all enemies have been taken care of, we can once again grab some ammo, see a pathway on the right and ahead of us, but before we move on, let's loot the medical station over here and then have a look at the mine logs. In the first entry, it is revealed how the miners found some kind of alien machine. The miners also seemed a bit surprised that people would be willing to buy the machine for a lot of credits, maybe because they didn't really see its usefulness. That starts to change in the second log entry, where a strange glow is reported, as well as a pretty sound emanating from the machine. Log entry number 3 then shows the full scope of the events. It looks like all of the miners became more or less addicted to being near the machine, and of course we already know what the machine did to them. Yes, it turned them into mindless husks. And we now have a pretty nasty fight against those husks ahead of us, and to get that started we will head up the ramp over here.
Shepard, I detected powerful alien signature deep within the mines. It appears the device is the source of the husks. It is likely that destroying it would stop them.
Alright, ED confirms what we already know from the log entries. There is an alien device somewhere in this mine that turns people into husks, and our objective is of course to destroy that. However, between now and the completion of that objective, we have a small army of husks to defeat, and no, I'm not only talking about 1 or 2 dozen or so. If the Mass Effect wiki is to be trusted, the entire mission has about 70 to 80 of them. And yes, we did already kill a small handful, but you can do the math yourself and see what we still have coming up. Now, strategy-wise, this is very much a King of the Hill type scenario. The husks will emerge from that pathway down below and they will relentlessly come at us. For the most part, they will do so from right in front of us. However, some of them will also sneak up from the back, and those can easily cause problems. Still, this position right here is in my opinion one of the best to fight in, mostly because the husks have a fairly long way from their spawning point up to us. It also has the big advantage of a respawning ammo clip right next to the power cell container that we emptied earlier, and since ammunition will be spent at a rapid pace in this mission, that is of course very useful. Meanwhile, the overall combat approach hasn't really changed from the very first encounter in this mission. If the husks are still far enough away, we want to kill them with gunfire, but if we are at risk of getting swarmed, then removing their armor is enough, because at that point we can go for the insta-kill with one of our 3 available concussive shots. Admittedly, the heavy use of that ability also made this episode a pain in the ass to edit, because I normally try to edit out the power selection thingy at the bottom to make the episode a bit more fluid, and in this mission I opened that menu pretty much every 3 to 5 seconds. Now at this point we also have our first taste of the Eviscerator shotgun, which is understandably very useful in a fight against enemies who like to get up close and personal. Still, despite being described as semi-automatic, the Eviscerator actually has a very slow rate of fire, so rapid-fire, close-range barrages against clusters of enemies are not its strong suit. Regardless, together with the Vindicator, it is in my opinion one of the better weapons available for this mission, and this is also part of the reason why I installed the DLC at this part of the playthrough. Additionally, a well-placed shot with the Eviscerator, fueled by Adrenaline Rush, is able to instantly kill a husk even with full armor, and considering how little time we actually have to focus on the individual enemies in this mission, that can be a great relief. Now, at this point we can also get back to what Edie said earlier, because she mentioned that destroying the alien device would also stop the husks. And that is actually true. At no point in this mission are you actually being forced to fight through wave and wave of enemies. The problem is, destroying the alien device will also automatically end the entire mission, and there are a few more things here that we want to grab before that happens, including a locker that we need to spend some time on to bypass it. Now, as you can hear, we have a break in the action, but the fighting is not over yet. The next group of husks, however, will only trigger as we get closer to the device, so before we do that we can restock our ammunition with the second power cell container of the mission, and then we can make our way over to the alien device. Again, there is nothing that really stops us from rushing in here immediately after the fight begins and activating this group right away, but as you can imagine, that will only make the entire fight a lot harder, as we would have even more husks to deal with. Now, this part of the fighting is going to be a lot shorter than what we just witnessed. However, it is also going to be much more intense, because a large number of the enemies will spawn very close by, and this time we also don't have any sort of high ground or barriers to block their path, so they will be able to close the distance very quickly. For that reason, I have also switched back to the assault rifle. The shotgun is perfectly fine if the enemies come rushing at you one after the other, but once they arrive clustered together in larger numbers, the ability to spread out the gunfire is very useful. As you can see, at this point our squad members are also much more at risk of getting killed, simply because they generally don't fare too well in close quarters combat. Grunt is the exception. With his Krogan charge he can actually make some room from time to time, but even that ability does not trigger too often, so if you're like me and you don't really want to spend your medigel basically ever, then you might spend the last few minutes of this mission running around the battlefield kiting enemies so that you can kill them one by one. By the way, that is actually a valid and oftentimes successful approach for the entirety of this firefight. However, it would of course also significantly increase the length of the entire affair, and I would assume you have better things to do than to see me run around in circles for 10 to 15 minutes. One last thing to note, there is some ammunition on the table outside of the room, and as you just saw, making a quick dash for that table can be very useful to avoid getting stuck with weapons that you normally don't use. And here we are now. With a bit of luck and a solid tactical approach, we have just defeated the final enemy of this mission. But before we wrap things up, there are two things we want to grab. The first is the medkit over here near the Husks spawn point. The second one is then a locker that we can bypass for the comparatively meager amount of 450 credits. Once we have both of those things, we can then use 2 more concussive shots to blow up the bombs near the alien device, and that completes another mission. And here we are, the Reaper indoctrination device has been destroyed and we are one step closer to completion. As usual in these small assignments, we earn 125 experience points and 7,500 credits, and this time we also obtain 2,000 units of iridium.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
Back on the Normandy, we then have a new message and we are in fact still dealing with the fallout of Jack's loyalty mission. The message here comes from Cerberus Intel on behalf of the Elusive Man, who assures us that he actually ordered the facility on Pragia to be shut down before chaos broke out. So just like Miranda at the end of the last episode, he is deflecting the blame on the rogue facility personnel. However, the full extent of his involvement in the project remains somewhat unclear. Now, one final thing that we also picked up during that mission on Pragia is another research upgrade, specifically the 4th of 5 biotic damage upgrades. And even though we are using our squad's biotic powers more for crowd control instead of doing direct damage, we still want to grab that one, of course. So for the cost of 1,500 units of Element 0, we can get a 40% damage bonus for all biotics in our crew.
Grunt seems very agitated. You may want to check in on him.
And with that, we have also reached the end of today's episode, and there might be a bit of a delay until the next one goes up. The reasons for that are me attending a conference and then being on holiday for 2 weeks, so you will probably have to wait until the 2nd week of October for episode 43. I know that it's not ideal, but maybe it also gives you some time to check out other people's channels. For example, you may have heard of the recent release of Greedfall, a game that might be right up your alley if you're a fan of BioWare games. Now, in any case, of course, I hope you found today's episode enjoyable, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you want to support me and my channel further, then by all means go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Alternatively, you can also check out and maybe pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.